got to offer podcasts, you got to write a book, you got to speak at conferences, you got to do a webinar, you've got to do this, you got to do that. Facebook has, Pinterest has, YouTube. Oh my gosh, I'm so completely overwhelmed. Here's the deal, and I'm going to dig into this episode, but take a breath. We don't need to be trying to offer everything to everyone, and we're continuing the series of getting your business plan right. We are talking about simplifying offerings, and I can't even express to you that we need to simplify down to scale up, and that's what this episode is about. So let's do it. Let's get simplified, and let's just get successful.
Welcome to the Business Bites Podcast, the podcast for busy entrepreneurs. Whether you're an online entrepreneur or seeking after brick and mortar success, this podcast brings you quick bites of content so you can learn and grow anywhere you are. Now here's your host, Rachel Brainke.
Just a reminder that Real Biz Accelerator, the 52-week coaching program with me to get your real biz, real life this year, is open for enrollment. We are already having coaching calls. We're already digging into the accountability group. Make sure you come and join us at rachelbrainke.com. It is going to be a fantastic way to get your mind right, your business right. We go over legal, marketing, business strategy, structures, you name it, even into the personal aspect of running a business, balance, who we are, how we can become a better person ourselves, because they are not void from each other. So come and join us, Real Biz Accelerator. No one needs an MBA. Come get an RBA. Hello, friends. Welcome back to this 5-part series of getting your real biz, real life right for the year. Whether you're listening to it at the beginning of the year, or you've just decided you need to rework this, or you're brand new, welcome, welcome, welcome. We have been walking through a series that is a formula that sounds so basic, but let me tell you what, so many of y'all skip all over it, or you really don't dedicate the time in doing it. Maybe you do it once and that's it. And that is the downfall for many entrepreneurs. I'll tell you what, my name's Rachel Brainke. I may have already said that, but I'm just excited to dig into this. And I have worked with so many entrepreneurs over the last 15 plus years and helping them. And one of the things that we do in my one-to-one coaching calls is we work through this formula. And I can't even tell you how getting clear on all of this, using this formula as the lens by which we make every decision in business, by which we move forward with everything, will make it so that your business can be easier to work with and to succeed in the next year. I do this every year, even when I was just developing and trying to figure out how to even earn money, going from $0 a month to $300 a month to now shattering seven-figure ceiling with multiple employees, teams, and brands. We still use this foundationally. So here's the formula. And again, I've said this on other episodes. I'm going to say it again. If you have not listened to the other episodes, I strongly suggest you carve out an hour of time. You go and do it. They're very quick, about 12, 13 minutes each. Get your pen and paper. But even before you do that, join the Real Biz Challenge. It is free at rachelbrainke.com. And that is the foundation. And then we put these episodes on top, and that's the exact procedure and formula I work through. And then that sets me up for the year. And I tell you what, I am not one to sit here and say this is the silver bullet, the golden ticket, the Willy Wonka chocolate factory. But I'll tell you what, with working with so many people and we go through this formula, it makes things so much easier. So we've gone through identifying the consumer avatar and all the intricacies of that. We've also talked about evaluating your unique serving proposition, becoming the go-to, because that is also going to dictate who you talk to, where you talk to, what you're going to offer, and all of that, which ties in directly to this week of simplifying our offerings. This is something that I feel like could almost be like a hashtag Rachel's Rants, but like in a good way, because I love you all and I give tough love on this podcast. And I want nothing more than for all of y'all to succeed and have that real business in real life that you want. Truly, truly, truly. That's what I want. That's why I got into this back when I was diagnosed with cancer. If you've heard the story, I was looking at my 2-year-old son. I was sitting on the floor. They called and were like, hey, your tumor was malignant, blah, blah, blah. And I thought to myself, if I get through this, I want to do a couple of things. One, I don't want to work for someone else. 2, I want to be present for my kids. Not in this order, obviously, but also 3, I want others to be able to have the exact same thing. And through the years, I have been seeing reaping of the dividends, especially during the pandemic this last year. Was able to have one of the best years ever, but also being present for my kids. But that was because of the years that I built. And here's the deal. Yes, systems are great. Strategy is awesome. But at the end of the day, it's all about really who you are, how you put yourself out there, what you put out, and how you package it. And I'm not just saying package it in the products and services, but in also the messaging and branding and all of that. And as I say that, I can even feel myself getting like a little overwhelmed, like, oh my gosh, it's so big. How do I boil this down? That's what this formula is. So our consumer avatar plus our unique serving proposition now into simplifying our offerings. And I have gotten to where I've started saying simplify down to scale up. And I'll even tell you, and I've been using myself as the case study for y'all in these episodes, that I started very broad, and I shared this a little bit last week in the Unique Serving Proposition episode, that I started very broad. Rachel Brinke, I just had this, oh my gosh, I want to help everybody, right? Just told you the story. I want to help everyone. I want every parent out there, specifically moms, I want them to be able to have a piece in the entrepreneurial pie. I've got to reach everyone. I'm going to offer everything. And so I built this Rachel Brinke brand, which was not the brand that it is now. And you'll see the trajectory here in a second. But I built this and I was just offering all of this and nobody was coming at first. And I'm like, what is going on? Why is this happening? People started slowly trickling in. You know, I've got people, birds of a feather flock together, start coming in. I'm like, this is great. But I was like, you know what? This isn't working. I've got to get even more narrow and fight the fear of polarizing people. In fact, embrace the attraction of polarizing. Right? Embrace the attraction of polarizing people, right? Also embrace the appeal of not doing certain things. For example, not offering everything. One of the biggest things that I'm seeing that is a major issue. I mean, just take and scroll through Facebook or Instagram or maybe even YouTube, but specifically Facebook and Instagram. We have all these ads, and some of y'all may have come to me through ads, which is fantastic. I'm all about paid advertising. But there's so many people out there that are teaching you how to do business, how you should do it, etc. And there's so many different ways on how you can attract. But what they don't tell you is, oh yeah, you should do webinars. Okay, but my question is why? Because that doesn't fit with my formula. And that's how I can filter through and not get distracted and not buy into all of these other things. But I want each of you to sit there and embrace and go, all right, I am not going to try to attract everyone. I'm going to try to not offer everything. And I am going to only offer very specific things. Like I was saying before I went off on my little rant, I'm in the case study of this, and I have been doing one of my brands, the Law Tog, for over 10 years now. And we started very specifically with just contract template forms. I also speak very specifically to copyright stuff in contract/legal biz, but mostly contracts. And that's because I want to have a very unique serving position for photographers in the photography industry. And as I talked in the last episode, it's easier like when you're making a snowball. You start smaller and then you can just build it bigger. Well, we even within the last year realized that we were trying to offer so much that people were becoming confused. That whole attraction of very specific serving propositions was getting a little muddled. So I'm sharing this to say, whether you're first in business and you're like, all right, I hear that I'm supposed to offer all this stuff. Rachel just told me to simplify. Got it. All right. Well, we'll walk into that in a second. Or if you're someone that has been doing this for over a decade and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm offering so much. I'm balancing so many courses. I'm always launching. I'm always having to provide these products. I'm always doing this and I'm exhausted. Guess what? That's too many offerings. All right. Now, the other side of that is you could develop teams to do it for you, but we're looking at this from a more consumer perspective. Internally, we want to try to be as simplistic as possible, have strategy, have automation, efficiency, workflows, and all of that. But also from the outside, when we're talking about simplifying offerings, we've already identified who we're going to talk to. We've already identified what our unique serving position for them is going to be. But then we also need to identify what we're uniquely and simplifying to offer to them. And one thing that we did is we were in this forever cycle at the Law Tog of having to offer, courses and launching this and that, and people were missing the boat and it was becoming confusing. So we moved it all into one membership because then we started listening not only to the team was in this ever cycle of being overwhelmed of launching and an open enrollment, closing enrollment, missing people and not being able to actually serve like we talked last episode. And so we moved everything into a membership so they can receive everything. And now we can just do like what are called free launches. Those that are in the membership will run Biz Revamp one course, in January for 8 weeks. And then we'll do Marketing Madness like in May, but we're not having to actively continue marketing to the people. We already have them in the membership. We can then spend more time. We've simplified the offerings by primarily having contracts and membership. Membership has all the courses, and then we can cultivate our time to simplifying our offerings to those that we're trying to attract into our business, but also to be able to cultivate to serve those we already have. So it's a kind of a two-pronged approach of why I'm huge on simplifying of offerings. Now, again, I raise my hands. I've been one of those that I've gotten distracted over the years of I need to do this and I need to do that. And one of the examples people say, well, you write books, you do all that, but guess what? Those books are not really offerings that I am making as a lead offering to my audience. Those are things that I am doing to fulfill myself intrinsically. So let's look at Rachel Branke. I've got Real Biz Accelerator, which is the paid 52-week program that y'all can hang out with me. We can grow your business. That is the main offering at Rachel Branke. We also have contract template forms. Those are the two main simplistic offerings that I want to provide because I've identified that's what I'm good at. That is what my background is in, but also what y'all truly need. Now, that's the paid offerings. So let's also identify in our free offerings, what is it that is in your arsenal that you can use? Again, we got to go back to the last two episodes. What is our formula? Consumer avatar plus unique serving proposition. That will demand what the content is, where we put it, the format, and all of that. So for example, Rachel Branke, I have chosen to be very simplistic in my content output. This podcast and social media. And there is a crossover with that. And how is that? Because social media is mostly Facebook and Instagram. That also encompasses native postings. That also encompasses the podcast. It encompasses paid advertising. So as you can see, I've identified through the formula, I have also scaled down so I can put as much investment into those offerings to get the best return possible. Hope you guys see where we're going with this. Sketch it out and think to yourself, all right, I have all of this I could offer, but let's start very simplistic. And how can you take and repurpose that as you go along? Like, for example, I had all these courses that I had developed over the years. I didn't come out the gate with 10 courses, but then I realized after a while, we had 10 courses and we're like, oh my gosh, what are we doing with all this? Everyone is so confused. Or the audience was starting to feel like they weren't being served. They were only being sold to. How can we change that? And that's how we simplified the offerings. And that is what I suggest for all of you. You want to talk very uniquely to one specific consumer avatar. You want to have a very specific, unique serving proposition, and you want to have very simplistic offerings for them to buy into. Some of the examples that I gave last week on the Unique Serving podcast were things like James Wedmore. He started out very specifically talking to business owners of how they can leverage YouTube. We have Amy Porterfield, who talks very specifically through Marketing Made Easy is her unique serving proposition, but her offerings are more of like in webinars because that is the way that she has found success. She knows that it works. And if you have the right consumer avatar that will consume webinars, and it also is a good vehicle for your unique serving proposition, that is a good way to do it. But I'm giving you permission now. Sit down and write out, get it out of your head, all these ideas that you had, all these different offerings that you wanted to provide, but understand that busyness is not business. So while you're in this never-ending cycle of trying to create products, services, coaching, social media content, simplify it all as much as possible. My encouragement would be to come out the gate if you're brand new with one offering. So you have one consumer avatar, one unique serving proposition, one offering. And then when you reach a certain level, look at offering more or repurposing it into another. If you've already been doing this for like 10 years like myself, look at the example I gave. Look at the arsenal of products and services you already have. How can you bundle them to make it more efficient for you, to make it so that you're serving more than you are selling? And that is the goal, because what is it all going to do at the end of the day? It's going to make it easier for your consumer avatar to feel served, to buy into you, and for you to serve and fulfill what they're looking for, because that's the whole point of business, right? We have a solution to the consumer's problem, to that consumer avatar's problem. But in order to get from point A to point B, we got to uniquely serve them and simplify the offerings. Again, we dig into very specifically on how we should approach this, what we should do with it, how we're going to identify, how we're going to pivot in Real Business Accelerator. Enrollment is open. I'm not going to use this as a further sales pitch on that. Just know you can come join us. We can dig into this. But you know what? Even if you don't do that, come join us in the Business Bites Facebook group. We're going to be talking about this. I want to see and hear your offerings. I would love to get feedback. I would love to hear feedback from you on mine. Let's dig in and be a community together. So head over to Facebook, Business Bites Podcast Group. Let's dig in, and I will see you guys there.
Thanks for joining Rachel on this episode of the Business Bites. For show notes, a list of recommended tools, or referenced episodes, you can find them at businessbitespodcast.com. Until next time.